Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws, does he have a catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit him!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into a Monday edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex. So I'm still traveling. Hope everyone had a great weekend, enjoyed the Super Bowl and all the commercials. I don't recall a commercial that stood out because I was in a place that I couldn't really hear it well, so I didn't pay attention to them. I did see what I thought was a regurgitated Geico commercial with Icky Woods doing the Icky Shuffle. I think that's old, wasn't it? Which is rare to see a regurgitated commercial in the Super Bowl. But hey, the Super Bowl itself, fun to watch. A good game, came down to the last few minutes. If you're a Bengals fan, you can't be really too disappointed because the score they got with the jerking the face mask on the defender, all things kind of worked out there. But it was a great game, and I mean, for the Bengals to have pulled that off would have been really one of the miracles in the history of NFL football, just to go from rags to riches that fast. But they're right there, so they know they can do it again. But getting back there is always tough. We'll see how that works out. Welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Indiana basketball, of course, nonstop going. Had the game over the weekend. We're back at it tomorrow as they play two games in quick succession, but then have a week off as the Ohio State game next Saturday that's scheduled for Simon Scott Assembly Hall has been moved to Monday. So there's that. Looking into the comments already. Jason, how are you, man? Donald down in Georgia, how are you doing, sir? Ryan, how's everybody doing? Appreciate you. Michael, Tim is on. Roger mentions that Indiana loses. They did not get to Austin Parker from Ohio that went to Ohio State. It's not a big surprise there. Indiana is going to have to hit the transfer portal for the big man next year if Trace Jackson Davis leaves. If he stays, they can recruit. It's going to be that simple. I am not convinced that Trace Jackson Davis is leaving because I'm not convinced that he has some place to go yet. I know that people that are the fans are thinking that, well, they like to think that he needs to stay. Well, that I don't use that. He doesn't need to do anything, and he's not ready. You need to eliminate that from your vernacular because the only people who decide who's ready are the NBA personnel. And again, you have to understand it's not ready to play. They might not be ready to play today. They are looking for the future. And if they think someone has the talent they need to get to the future, they're fine with that because they'd rather get them now and get them probably for less money. But yeah, that stuff. So that's something you'll deal with at the end of the year. I'm just not convinced that he'll go anywhere. We'll see how that turns out. Regardless of that right now. Irregardless is not a word. Regardless of that. Let's see. Tim says, "Oh yeah, and how about the Phoenix Open? Just the Phoenix Open has got it's the absolute funnest, craziest stop on the PGA Tour. Am I wrong? And I remember putting up someone had posted a picture not too long ago, and I reposted of daggone it. Too much information in my head right now. The IU golfer, Jeff, you know who I'm talking about, but there's a great picture of him in the Phoenix Open I mean, taken from way back and nothing but green and stands, and he's in the red pullover and the candy stripes. And I thought it was pretty striking. It was a pretty cool looking picture. Someone commented that it may cheapen the event. I'm like, how can you cheapen the Phoenix Open? It's one of those things that's just a blast for the fans. It's certainly not what you're going to see at the Masters, but I love that. I love that. It made that ending was fun. The announcers are allowed to make it fun. And that's what announcers are for. That's what TV analysts are for, to try to bring some excitement sometimes through their voice and raise it up. And they were able to do that because they were not having to be quiet for the crowd and the players, because the crowd was going nuts. To me, that made that a blast. That was fun to watch. I was like, oh, man, I'm going to watch any of this. It was not must-see TV, but it just made golf compelling. It's kind of hard to make golf compelling without, well, you have to have great play either way. But having great play and an environment like that, I thought it was awesome. Tom, appreciate you, man. We haven't even gotten started yet. Don Fischer on today, Charlie Miller on today, of course, Dustin Dopirak on today. Loaded show, as always. Also, our good friend Jim Reamer will join us. We'll see what happened over the weekend. I know lots of high school basketball action as well. Indiana in action tomorrow night after losing on Saturday to Michigan State. And, you know, that you can't make too much out of that game because, first of all, they were not expected to win that game. And I thought they played well for a while, but they just there's obviously not playing. I don't see them always playing as a team, but the offense definitely looked a little discombobulated, more so than it has. If that, but you're also looking at the fact that you've got a new starter in the lineup. That doesn't really mean a lot, but it does. You're changing the dynamics of things, and especially now when you have a Trey Galloway and Xavier on the floor at the same time, they've got to get to where they jive with each other. They're going to need that because they're both needed. Xavier is one of the keys on that team. He's someone that has to be there and has to be doing well. Hello, Dr. J. Happy belated. Thank you. Dr. J from Reynolds Family Dentistry. Make sure if you're down in Southern Indiana, you go see him. Appreciate him reaching out this morning. Let's see. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, yeah, that great stat that JB sent me. Let's see. Let me go back to it. Here's some information for you. He thinks it's one of the coolest stories on the year. Big congrats to Al Durham, former IU player. He's the only 4-year player to ever finish his time at IU without cracking the top 10. But today is going to change that. Al went 12 for 12 from the free throw line yesterday in an overtime win over DePaul. Could Indiana have used that free throw shooting on Saturday? You better bet your ass they could have. Al also leads the nation in free throws with 153. Must be getting to the rim a lot, man, and he's hitting them, hopefully. He has played at least 37 minutes 13 times this season. JB wanted to remind me that remember how everyone was always saying that they didn't have enough talent. And this is 2 years in a row that an IU transfer has been a key cog in a top 10 team to finish their careers. Justin Smith went off to Arkansas and was accomplished that down there with Eric Musselman as they continue to have a good run now. Even though Al is the leading scorer for the Friars, his shooting numbers have been dreadful. Nevertheless, he's mentioned frequently by Providence fan boards as a leading contender for their MVP. Lastly, this will be only the fourth week that Providence has been ranked in the AP top 10 since Ray Tolbert's freshman year at Indiana, and the latest in the season they've been to the top 10 since Mike Woodson's freshman year at IU. Al might join Delray Brooks as being a former IU player who played on the most beloved Providence teams of all time. Robin says Rhode Island kids are practicing free throws, pretending to be Al Durham. Great story. It is awesome. Congratulations to him. I'm glad that is working out well for him. And IU could have definitely lose. See, I don't know what's in the water. You've got a guy that left here that is a damn good free throw shooter. I think, wasn't Justin Smith a pretty good free throw shooter? I'd have to go back and look at his numbers. Make sure I'm not missing some comments this morning on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Jason asked, where do you go from here? If you're talking about the basketball team, you go play tomorrow night and you beat a team that you had down by 22 points on the road. Now you get them at home, and you have to take care of business. It's that simple. It's still a tough challenge. They have to find a way to win a game that they're not supposed to win. They're not going to be the favorite in this game, even though they're at home. Wisconsin just is coming off of a loss to Rutgers in Madison, no less, a place where Indiana has not won since 1836. So they also yet have to play Rutgers. It's going to be a tough run. Indiana was sitting in position where they could have walked into the NCAA tournament, and they're in peril only if they don't take care of business. It's totally up to them. We'll talk more about that with all of our guests coming on today, of course. How was the Super Bowl? Super Bowl commercials. We'll have to talk about it at the end of the day, I guess. Jason thinks Xavier was reckless again. Last game, decent defensively. Parker, and the thing with Parker Stewart, you have to understand. I don't know where he is mentally, and so I don't want to judge someone that could be dealing with that issue. And that's understandable, but if it does not allow you to do other things, maybe it's a decision that has to be made. But I want the best. Everyone wants the best for him. So hopefully he is getting in a better place, because I agree. He at Northwestern, when I was watching him on the bench, he was completely disengaged, as was pretty obvious. But if you were there, it was even more obvious. So, but I hope things come around for him, because I know the staff is really wanting to work with him. Everybody wants the best for all those kids. So Ryan says hopefully they can finish at 11-9. Let's see. It means we're getting close to a break. Don's coming up next. Make sure I didn't miss any quick questions. Must win 4 out of 6 games. We'll look at that schedule later. Let's see. How about the beer shower on the 16th hole of the Phoenix Open after Sam Ryder hole-in-one? Didn't see that, but look forward to that. Let's take a week off. Let's take a minute, take a break, because Don Fischer's coming up next. We're brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, where tonight you can find Don Fischer and Mike Whitson at 7:05 there for Inside Indiana Basketball. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Southern Stone.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration or
Southern Stone, dun, 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 dun. Yell at me if Don comes on, because I could be looking at stuff.
Okay.
I wish you could make this camera window little and look at other pages.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Jim is at an airport. Someone's asking where you're at.
Oh, I know what I need to pull up. Yeah, where you go? Stats broadcast. Yeah. Oh man, come on. State. This is not a bad airport, I gotta tell you.
I've never been to the Tampa airport.
Andre Gert, Diana Fragoso, Tommy Debo, Raul Griffin, Brianna Harrison, Daniel Moyer, Matthew Tyndall. Please proceed to gate 814 and descend. Is boarding doors are closing in 1 minute and not reopen. Once again, Dustin Final boarding call. Your airline flight 1181 to service 2 cross the street, floor 814. You're closing in 1 minute.
Southern.
Hopefully, Don. I guess Don will he might end up joining mid-segment. We'll see. We got a minute left still.
Yeah, he's calling right now. Never a good sign. Yes, sir, Donnie. Oh, okay. John sent him his link. He said he doesn't have the link.
Oh, I'll resend it to him. That's fine.
He's resending it to you. Our apologies. Thank you, sir.
All right. Sometimes that happens for some reason. I don't know what it is. I always send it to everybody. I'm going to pull Charlie in real quick, though.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Charlie. We're going to be going here in just a second. I'm trying to resend the link to Don. Evidently, he didn't get it.
What's up, CM? How are you, man?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good.
We got to figure out a favorite picture. The greatest.
10 seconds.
What's your favorite basketball picture?
For Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
I was saying,
that's all right.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I'll send it if I have it.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Well, welcome back here on this Monday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, where I will be tonight. Charlie Miller joins us now. How are you, my friend? How was your weekend?
I was good. How you guys doing?
Good. We got to get a pretty picture of you to put up when you're mobile.
I like that.
Send your favorite all-time. What is your favorite all-time basketball picture of yourself?
I would probably say a picture. I had to take myself of a VCR tape. I had to stop the VCR tape, Jim, and it was a picture of me dunking against Purdue, my freshman year. So you had to stop it and take a picture.
You never had? No one ever took that photo?
I didn't have the clippings of that, so I had to go kind of create my own social media back 15 years ago.
Man, I'd be doing some fish research on microfilm at the Indy Star or at IU.
There we go. I love it.
Now, if this was today, they'd have you in 360-degree.
Oh man,
it would be sick.
I'll be in metaverse, I believe, right? I mean, it'd just be like a little Charlie Miller.
Yep. Oh man, can you imagine a full team of little Charlie Millers? It'd be great. Did you watch the Super Bowl yesterday?
I did. And I was. It was exciting, man. It was a well played game. It was no penalties. No, there's like low penalties on both sides. No one really beat themselves. I mean, you had to snap, the mishandle on the kick, but I mean, it was a good game overall.
Yeah, it was. Back in the day, it was. It seemed like once you got to the Super Bowl, those games would just suck.
Right.
But that's not the case anymore. The NFL itself is getting the entire playoff run was just tight as it could be. Virtually every game was great.
Every game was tight. Every single game was a game, and it was worth watching from beginning to the end. And that was pretty cool to see. And I won a little bet with the kids I'm about to go see in a couple minutes. The bet, Jim, was if they won, Cincinnati want to go for Cincinnati. They won, they can get what they want to do. So I get a chance to do what I want to do, which is the lesson plan itself. so pretty cool.
Always works. Always works. Of course, over the weekend, Indiana had a game on Saturday. Come right back playing again tomorrow. Quick turnaround on the road up at Michigan State. That game didn't go the way that the Hoosier fans would like, but Don Fischer joining us as well. Don, I was just going to mention to Charlie, obviously Indiana with a quick turnaround playing Saturday, and then again tomorrow night, Saturday's game, one in which they came out and battled, but just could not get shots to fall. And when Illinois shot 18 first-half free throws, and forget the fact that they hit 16 of them, but when you put up 18 free throws in the first half, second half foul trouble is probably going to be following, and that was one of the issues Indiana faced on Saturday.
Well, my biggest problem with Saturday was the lack of consistency from the officials in calling the game at both ends of the floor the same
right
way.
Off the beginning too, right at the freaking start of that game.
It started early and it didn't ever end, in my opinion. And not this. I mean, when you look at the statistics of the game, it all evens out at the end. But the problem was the game was not called consistently at both ends of the floor, in my opinion. And again, I'm a biased guy from the standpoint that I've been doing Indiana for 49 years, and I'm obviously rooting for Indiana to get a win. But at the same time, if you look at it objectively, and I went back and looked at some of the video of that ball game, and I went, you got to be kidding. I mean, consistency is so critical to any ball game and how it's called. And I'm not a guy that just bashes officials for the sake of bashing officials. I don't do that. And I understood why Mike Woodson was so frustrated in this ball game and why he got a technical as first as the head coach at Indiana. And he probably could have been thrown out of this ball game because he went across the midcourt stripe at one point, trying to talk to the official that had given him the tech initially, but it wasn't about that. He was still angry about all the other things that took place that weren't called. So, you know what? I that's getting away from the facts of the matter that Indiana got beat, and Indiana got beat again for the third straight ball game. They continue to struggle shooting the basketball. And until they start shooting it better, they're going to get beat again.
Charlie?
Well, I mean, again, I've been on both sides of the home cooking, I'm going to call it. I'm going to just leave it at that. I've been on both sides of the home cooking. And I remember days when the home cooking worked for you, Don, and you're like, ooh, that was bogus. But it worked out. I'm not going to say anything. Right. What? And I've been on the other sides where you whiff at a guy and you get called for a foul. You ask your question, you put your hands up, what happened? You get a technical foul. Okay. Some payola's going on, right? That's fine. I can say these things. I don't, I have no affiliation. I can talk now, Don. I'm free. Right? I've been free for 25 years. Right? So but my point is I get it, but yet there's still a game we played. And you gotta learn to rise above it. And sometimes I believe as players, you take on the moniker of a coach. Coach Woodson lost it. So some of the players, I think, lost a little confidence. And all of a sudden now you got an avalanche. You're on the road. And Michigan is not an easy place to play. That's not an easy place to play. And you're coming in with too much drama from your misbehavior, your character judgment that people are going to ride. So you got all of that. That ball ain't going in the hole, fellas. And I'm going to say ain't. It is what it is. You got a lot going on in that locker room right now. You have a lot going on when you face on the road. And now this is the best teacher ever called experience. You lost 3. You got to get it right now. You got to figure it out. And I think the experience, they will learn just in time. And that's what I hope shows up tomorrow.
Go ahead, Don.
I think, Charlie, you're absolutely right. You've got to be able to overcome now.
Yeah.
You can't go into ball games feeling sorry for yourself. You can't go into ball games lamenting what has just happened this past week with the rule breaking and the suspensions and all those kinds of things. You're past that at this point. You've reinstated the players. The players have been reinstated. They played on Saturday. Indiana didn't win. They didn't shoot the ball worth a nickel at the free throw line, from three-point line, or inside. You've got to get a couple of guys that have been keys to this ball club all season long back on track again. And we're talking about primarily Trace Jackson Davis, who has shot it very poorly now for 3 straight ball games. He has got to get back on track, and a shooter that hits 60% of his shots, generally speaking, and most of them coming inside 10 feet of the basket. He's got to get back on track. There's no question about that. So this team needs to understand this is all on them at this point. They've got to turn this thing around. It's the coaches can only do so much. They can't play the game. They can't execute the plays. This is on players now, and they need to look in the mirror and decide what they want to have happen here the rest of this season.
Charlie, I wonder in the game Saturday Indiana they were kind of chippy, which I don't mind that, but it just seemed there was a lot of jawing going on, and I know that after one Parker Stewart 3 that he made, he blows a kiss to the crowd, and then he goes 1 of 6 from the free throw line. I'm wondering, is the focus there for these guys? They need to be focused on what they're doing and not worrying about blowing kisses to opponent's crowd when you're not doing all the things you need to do. And I'm not picking on just Parker Stewart. That's an example. They just seem to be a lot more mouthy in this game, and I've seen them prior to this.
Well, I think that goes back to what Don talked about. Now it's on the players and execution, right? So now can you rise above again, what I can only imagine is being said and what you're listening to, what you're trying to ignore. That might be a factor in a lot of players' focus, especially a Parker Stewart, a person who had to sit out. So he's probably hearing a ton and trying to ignore it. So, hey, here I'm going to show you up on this one possession. I knocked down a shot, then I missed my next 4. That to me becomes a focus situation, not an issue. And like Don said, I think now you have the experience, you got the stuff going on, and in reflection, I can just say you hope this does what Mike Woodson wants, which is it galvanizes everybody to come together. Because now you have this situation. It's all good when everything's great. Now you are facing real adversity. Right? You're talking about also doing something you haven't done in quite some time, which is get a berth into the NCAA postseason tournament. You're playing for a lot more than just a win. You're playing for that stake, that tradition. So I'm hoping that these guys think that and feel that way and get over this so they can focus together as a unit and play as one.
And Don, now this team goes has to come right back, gather themselves. They've got a game tomorrow night at home against a team that on the road they handled like no one else for 20 minutes. But so we know that they can play with this team. Wisconsin's coming off of a loss at home to Rutgers, and they're smarting. They need one. They need to get themselves gathered up, and of course, there's no better place to do that than at home.
There's no question, and this is a game that I hate to say it this way, but I think this is a pivotal game for this Indiana basketball team. With 3 straight losses, you're coming back home. You need a quality win in a big way. You need to stop this 3-game skid. You need your confidence to return. You need all of these things to take place. And it's going to be, I do believe that I think our fan base will show up for this ball game because they know how important it is. And it's going to be a game in which Indiana, I don't want to say it's a must win, but it's in that ballpark. And right now, this team needs it in the worst way. And again, this is all on the players at this point because the coaches didn't get suspended for breaking the rules. The players did. We're past that, of course, but I think it's still in the minds of these guys. And here's the other thing that I need to think, and I'm going to talk to Mike on our talk show tonight, and I'm going to ask him this question. Have you told your players to get off of social media? Well, have you told these guys to not look at anything on your telephones for the next a month or whatever it is. Just to get off of this thing. Stop looking at what fans are saying. Your fans, the other team's fans, you just stop it, because it's not helping you guys, because you react or you are affected by everything that is said out there. And there are not a lot of good things being said about this basketball team right now, and it's understandable. Breaking the rules, all those kinds of things, when that happens, you're going to take some hits. And you might as well just get off of social media and start just thinking about what you need to do and what you have to do to get this thing turned around. Because if you don't do that and you're affected by all these other outside interests and all these other people talking about you, you're not going to get back to where you need to be from a mental standpoint.
Man, I got something to say on that. I just want to say, thank God that did not exist when I played. When I went to a Sweet 16 game, guys, when we played Syracuse and Washington, D.C., and I just sat in a general section, and I heard the fans, and I was like, wow. I got to put some earplugs in. It was crazy. I was like, I can only imagine one thing when you're doing well, when you're not doing well. And that's what I see. Nothing against these guys, but it's like too much of that, right? And when it's great, you love to hear the puff up. But when it's not, that takes you down. You don't realize how much that wears on you. Because now you're trying to ignore it. Now you're trying to act like you're passive aggressive. I didn't hear that. I don't care about that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's too much of it, right? And again, like you said, the outside interest. We need an inside focus on what happened last play. Let's get back to feeding our big dog. Let's get back to playing inside out. Focus on what we can control, which is our attitude and effort, our energy and enthusiasm, not all this other stuff. Be accountable. We got it. Took our beating, slashing. We broke the rules. Let's get it back, man. Get over that. Let's get it back. That's just my say on that.
There's a good question, though, before we let Don get out of here, from Tom, right? There's kind of similarities now between now and last year as far as where Indiana is. They're ahead of that team last year. The team was more closer to the bubble already, I think. But some similarities there, and where they're going, this team has a better opportunity, I think, of fighting out of this. But here's the question. What do you see there?
Well, I think, and Mr. Wright asked a question. He says, what are my thoughts on this team at this point compared to last year at the same time? Because they seem like they're in that same position, and they are. That's the big problem. They are in a 3-game losing skid with 6 games to go in the regular season. Now, Indiana lost the last 6 games they played last year. And that's the mental side of things right now for this basketball team, because Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson and Rob Finney and the guys that were here last year all went through this. And they went through this 6-game stretch at the end of the season last year in which they couldn't get it done. And that's so a big question mark at this point is, can they recover now with the season feeling exactly the same way at this juncture? And honestly, that's the question that we're going to find out, because again, it becomes a mental thing. That's why I say get off of social media, because that's not helping you in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's people talking about how great you are or how bad you are, it doesn't help you. Start thinking about your basketball teammates and your coaches and the people who matter here. These are the people you need to listen to. And you got to be strong, and you've got to be strong on your own. You can't rely on others. It's up to you at this juncture. So to pull out of this thing, this game with Wisconsin is huge, absolutely huge. And they are a beatable team. You go look at their statistics. They are not a team that wows you with anything that they do on the floor, with the exception of winning. They know how to win. And it's on the coach. And Mike has talked about, we got to teach this team how to win. Well, right now, that teaching better come into play, because this is the critical time of the year.
Yeah, Joe Hillman was with us on the post-game show Saturday, and he said it is critical Tuesday. The fans need to show up, because they need to have all the energy in that building that they can, because he echoes your sentiments. This is a game they have to win. Absolutely. You can. I hear Don ask the very question he talked about earlier tonight at 7:05 at Southern Stone Restaurant, as he will be there for Inside Indiana Basketball with Mike Whitson. Correct? No.
Yeah,
No?
we will have the show tonight, but it will not be at Southern Stone. It's going to
Gotcha.
be on Zoom. Southern Stone has, I guess, their biggest day of the year is Valentine's Day, and so Valentine's Day has knocked our show into a Zoom show this evening. So we will not be on site at Southern Stone. It will be a Zoom show tonight, but we will be on the air at 7:05 over all of our affiliate radio stations throughout the state.
Good to see a single guy. I forgot it was Valentine's Day, Don. I wasn't even thinking about that. So. Well, at least you don't have to drive in. But we'll see you tomorrow night and look forward to it as always.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Don
guys.
Fischer, the great voice of the Hoosiers. Don Fischer joining us. Charlie, I can't thank you enough. I think you have to run as well, right?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys.
All right, buddy. We look forward to talking to you as well. You have a good one.
All right, you too, fellas. I thank you.
Hey, we're back for Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios with Dustin Dopier of the Bloomington Herald-Times. Right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Sports on television.
Hello, Dustin.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing, man?
Fantastic.
Tired.
Hear ya.
Coming to us live from another airport.
Yeah.
Where were you at?
In the norm.
I was actually in the Tampa area, but I just never left the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Where'd my book go? Are you kidding me? I lost
What'd
my
you
book.
lose?
My book. I left my book at the TSA.
Shoot. That sucks. Can you go back and ask for it?
Well, I'm going to, but I'm going to have to run.
When's your flight take off?
As soon as the show, it starts boarding 5 minutes before the show's over. I can't believe that.
Oh, good luck with that, man. Damn.
Yeah.
This is tight.
That's all right. When I get Reamer on, I guess I'll take off and run up there real quick and see if they have it.
There you go. So let Reamer run the show?
Just for a minute. I can be
Best
up
of
and
luck.
back in 5 minutes.
Oh, I can hold him down.
I believe it, John. I believe
Oh,
it.
it's you can just pull a string, and I know I've got at least 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reamer can just roll. That's true.
Oh yes. Just start talking about. All right, let's talk about basketball by Carmel.
Talk about Carmel.
I may have 10 minutes.
That's all I
I may
gotta do
have
is
10
talk,
minutes.
start talking about Carmel, and he's good.
Yeah, all things Carmel. Get him going on that.
Damn, I cannot believe I did that. Yes, I can believe I did that.
Have you spilled coffee this morning? That's usually your airport tradition.
I have not, and I'm almost finished.
There
I
you
lost
go.
a book. I lost a book instead that I would much rather have and not spend another $30 for. It's a damn good book, and I wanted to finish it. The Betrayal of Anne Frank. Daggone it. How are you doing, Dustin?
I'm doing good, man.
What's new, man? Anything?
What is new? I mean, Saturday was weird. I'm beaming off the Super Bowl halftime show as a 39-year-old. That was like being reminded of being 10 again. That was fantastic.
I saw a post that said, if you're stoked for this halftime show, it is time for your colonoscopy.
They're not wrong.
I said, you're not lying. I said, I ain't going to say I was digging it, man.
Yeah, like, I mean, it kids don't understand like what it means that the people who were responsible for the Chronic and Doggy Style were allowed on a Super Bowl halftime show.
All right, here we go.
Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back Indiana Sports Beat here coming to you on this Monday. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald Times joins us now, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. Reach out to her at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. Dustin Dopirak, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Jim, how you doing?
I am ready to get home and turn around and do another game from Assembly Hall as the Hoosiers trying to come off of that, whatever you want to call it, Saturday. It was just a rough day. They played hard at times. They played not together at times. It was a weird cornucopia of things coming off of the suspension. I mentioned a minute ago, I saw a lot of mouthing, and I don't have a problem with that. A, as long as you can back it up, but B, you got to be aware of your situation. And for Parker Stewart to be blowing kisses to the Izzone because he hits a 3, coming off of his second suspension, and then goes 1 of 6 at the free throw line, that's not a good look to me. That says, dude, your focus is not where it needs to be. You need to forget about blowing kisses and shooting free throws. And I don't mean to get on him particularly only. It's just, that's just an example of some of these guys I just don't know are locked in focus-wise on what they have to do and how they're going to get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there was just a lot of moving parts there, and I don't know that it's necessarily like, whether is it lack of focus. I mean, I think it was because at the Breslin Center, as far as where press seating is, like we are on the baseline, and the they're on the sideline next to us. The Indiana players are on the sideline next to us, and like, I mean, you can hear the Izzone guys like clear as a bell. And so, like, it was funny. Like, one guy kept trying to talk to Rob Finnis. He's like, "Why are you quiet, Rob?" Rob's like, "Because I ain't playing." Like, what do you mean? I can't play. What do you want to say? And he literally said it, and like somebody else was yelling at him again. Like, when it was like at halftime when they were shooting around. Rob's like, "Yeah, okay, yep." I'll it's like I can't remember what it was, but he said something like, "Tell him that at halftime, Rob." And Rob's like, "Yep,
yeah,
I'll totally do that for you." But it's one of those things where you hear them so clear, and I don't know, like, is it better? Is it worse? As some guys, like, is it almost better to engage? Is it better for you than trying to ignore it when you don't want to? But like as a whole, no, they didn't deal well with the total atmosphere, which included a very chippy Michigan State team. I thought, Matt Cohen did, I thought a really good piece for us on, just the emotion that Michigan State played with. Like it almost seemed like Michigan State had a grudge that Indiana didn't know what it was. Like they were getting into it, and guys were like sticking their faces in Indiana fans' face, like, just getting up into Indiana players, and they were like, "What did I do to you? Like, who are you?" Like it's not like we've got beef going back 10 years. Like, who are you? Like, why
is the word out that you can punk guy you?
React with that, and they never seemed to be on a level footing with that. It was like Michigan State was just playing this a different way, and Izzo kind of explained it and just said, like, you guys aren't playing with any edge, and you need to. Basically, I'm just not seeing it from you guys, and I need you to start playing, with a lot more grit and a lot more toughness. And I think part of the way they did that was kind of get a little bit old school, that the sort of things that you would have seen the Flintstones do, way back when with the Cleves teams and stuff like that. And they just jawing at people and going at it and acting like some of the better Michigan State teams. And this is not, this Michigan State team's fine. It's good, but you've seen 20 better in the last 30 years, probably, 15 in probably the last, 20, something like that. This is a pretty good Michigan State team. It's not great. But it's like, okay, play with that chip on your shoulder, play with the way Izzo teams do. And it was like, almost like it was like kind of an experiment for them. Like, this was not sort of like a natural thing that just happened, but they just decided they were going to do it. And Indiana was like, what's going on with these guys? They never really figured it out. On top of that, you had the carryovers from the suspensions, all those guys sort of getting used to getting back out there, knowing they had to kind of regain trust. And I think that was, it helped some guys and it hurt some others. I mean, I think, Tamar Bates went out there and had a moment. That was the best he's played in 2 months, maybe 3. But, Xavier Johnson gets in foul trouble and forces a couple and turns the ball over. Some of that fouls were unfair. I mean, he got a couple cheap ones, but, he was on and off. But Parker Stewart was a mess. Just couldn't hit anything, couldn't hit a free throw. 1 of 6 at the line and 1 of 9 from the field. You shake up the lineup. You got, Trey Galloway starting, I don't think was a bad idea, but, also making him the backup point guard was a little bit of a stretch because I think that puts him – I think he's really good defensively, but I think he's better guarding a wing than he is, guarding a one where he's in pick-and-roll situations. I don't think he did great with those. I mean, they just as a team, weren't very good defending pick-and-roll, and Hoggard and Walker managed to burn them. And they were just – there was a lot of reasons for them to be disjointed, and they all came together and made them very disjointed.
Yeah, and so now they've got to quickly come back together, regroup, and not just play a game, but play another game against another ranked team, another top-end Big Ten team, but one that they have shown that they played some of their best basketball against earlier this season, although it was only for 20 minutes. They're going to have to obviously play 40 minutes against this team, but they're getting to the point to where these are must-win games. I mean, if you're not, they've already lost 3 in a row. We just talked about last year they lost their last 6. Their NCAA tournament berth is in their own hands. It's their own they control their own destiny. But can they get things brought together mentally and as a team to accomplish that?
That's the question. And I was on in the background listening to Don Fischer at the end there, and Don really, I thought, encapsulated it perfectly, because the big thing is that when you've been through what these guys were through before, like when you've seen the bottom fall out, then when it starts to feel the same, that's when you get, that's when you're in kind of trouble. And so it's like, the good part is they know what it looks like. They might have learned some lessons for how to stop that. But on the flip side, like, there is the here we go again feel. And when that gets in some guys, it can go, it can go sideways. So I think, these days in between Saturday and Tuesday are, maybe some of the most important of the season. I mean, I think, I don't know that they have to beat Wisconsin, but they darn sure have to play better. They can't, if they get waxed by Wisconsin, then it's hard to imagine they won't get beat handily by Ohio State. Then you come back and get some games that are more winnable with Maryland and Minnesota and Rutgers. But when you're if you're that shaken and you're riding a 5-game losing streak and it feels like the bottom is falling out, like, it's hard to recover at that point. So that is the big piece, is just that, they at least, if they don't win on Tuesday, they got to at least do something that improves their confidence. And the fact that it's at home is a big deal. It is more winnable than going on the road and beating Ohio State, even though you've already beat them. You're going on the road. You're trying to do it in their place, and that's a lot. You've almost beat Wisconsin home, at their place. So you should be able to. It is a game that is winnable. I think. Wisconsin's got a couple of fantastic pieces, but they've been more solid. You've seen more top to bottom good Wisconsin teams. So basically, if they can defend Johnny Davis, and I think with Trey Galloway in this game, when they didn't have him in the first one, they have a chance of doing that. But there's a lot of other things that they've got to do to be able to win that basketball game.
Yeah, because if they weren't to not be able to get this win tomorrow night, and as mentioned, that would be 5 straight. Well, then you go on the road at Ohio State, and you're really easily looking at 6 straight losses. Not only does that just destroy them emotionally, but what does that do to the NCAA committee that's looking at this team? They're going to have to climb back out of that, and that would entail winning not a game but multiple games. And you have Purdue to end the season on the road. So these next 2 games tomorrow is really critical. The next 2 games are just critical to the remainder of their season, without question. I mean, how close is this to an actual must win? With the fact that you have Ohio State on the road right after that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty close. Again, it's one of those things where I would have gone into it just from a straight resume standpoint, saying, okay, if they just win all the ones that they're supposed to win, and you have, you have those wins over Purdue and Ohio State, and you lose all the ones you're supposed to lose, are they still in? And I would have said probably, but it's close. I think if they lose to all the ranked teams left on their schedule and they beat all the non-ranked teams, they're gonna be like they're not out. I don't think. If you get Maryland, Minnesota, Rutgers, remember Rutgers is a nice little win now. Rutgers has been beating some people, and so if you get that one, if you just beat Maryland and Minnesota, I think you're out. I think that you're out. If Rutgers
is a good win. Rutgers would be a good win
at this point. So if you get Rutgers and you get Maryland and you get Minnesota, you're tight. You could probably use a first round Big Ten win too.
So say that would give you 20 wins if you were able to pick up a win.
Yeah, I think that gets you in just because of those shiny wins at the top. I think gets you a long way. But it's tight, and you're nervous. You're not sure on Selection Sunday, and you don't have a advantageous position. Going in, you're probably a 10 if you're not an 11 and playing in Dayton. So that's still tough. I mean, I think you really need one of the. It would just go a long way to get one of these two. Whether it's Wisconsin or whether it's Ohio State, just every loss that you have at this point, it kind of looks like on the other end you got to get something you're not supposed to get. So I think that's key. I mean, it's pretty close to must win. It's not like okay, you can put the season in the bag. If they lose on Tuesday, they might as well not even show up. I wouldn't say that. Like they can still make a case if they lose Tuesday. It's not over. But if you're them, you got to treat it like you need to get right today. You need to get right now because you're out of time. Like you can't wait. Like act like you've got cushion. You don't.
And I know this team can do anything that I ask, but the suspensions, I don't know. Has that fractured the team? Has that fractured individuals? Can they recover from that? When I watched them against Michigan State, we got kind of different rotations, different starting lineup. I don't know if that's causing anything there, but it just doesn't seem they just don't seem to be playing together, if that makes sense. Which I don't know what that would really look like with this team, to be honest with you. But it doesn't seem. I know it when I see it. I don't think I'm seeing it.
You're not. I mean, I think it, and can it be fixed? I think so, but I mean, this is one of those big moments for Mike Woodson. I mean, again, like obviously, he made the calculation that he made in the first place, and so, but they're like, and so this is. I mean, I think at the end of the day, he obviously made his argument and rationale, and I think it's hard to argue against him, saying basically like there are rules, and if you don't follow them, then there's got to be consequences because. If there's not consequences for breaking the rules, then there's practically no rules. And if there's no rules, then no one's going to listen, and you can't run a team like that. You can't run a program like that. So like ultimately, like it's hard to argue for me to argue that he was wrong. But there is the next.
I think it would be hard for anyone to argue he was wrong.
Right, exactly. Now, first, we don't know exactly what happened. Like we've all heard bits and pieces of stories, and I think we can generally presume that it comes down to a egregious violation of
curfew violation.
Not a 15-minute violation of curfew, but well after you're supposed to be back, you're not back. I mean, I think that's what we can sort of piece together logically.
But not what people were rumored to think that it was.
Right, exactly.
All that stuff, and I'm so tired of hearing that. I'm like going, it got to the point for me quickly though. It didn't even matter what it was. It was the sheer fact that this team is where they are, and they're breaking rules. What the hell is wrong with you? Right, kind of goes back to that same question a minute ago. Where is this team's focus?
Yeah, I mean, what the hell is wrong with you is you're 19, 20, 21, and you're in a big city, and you're like, but the issue is like, and it's understandable because we were kids once, we were that age once.
Oh hell yes, I've said it. I was
I want to go check this out. I want to go do this. I want to go chase girls. I want to go all these things. But it's like the point is, it's like all right, like you have a higher responsibility. You need to recognize that, and when you fail to do that, you need to be reminded. They have the same, like proclivities that we did. We wanted to go out. like we wanted to go see things. We all wanted to do stuff like that, and we all got in trouble, and we all pushed the limits and stuff like that to see what we could get away with. But when it's like, okay, look, this isn't the time for that. Like you guys, if like you have a big game, it's important. You need to understand first off, the Northwestern is no joke, and you're in a position where you can't afford to throw games away. So you need to be reminded that you don't screw around, and you need to be in tip-top shape. And like, you don't want to be out until 3 a.m, not just because you're breaking my rule, but because you're not going to be 100% tomorrow. You're not going to be your full self. So it's just like sort of reminding them that, and it's taking a risk to lay that down. But also the next piece is that, there is some incumbent, responsibility on the part of Mike Woodson to get these guys back and say, yeah, you screwed up and I made the point to you, but now I need you back, man. Like the point of that was to tell you that you needed to be locked in 100%. So like, that also means you don't get to take a week, 2 weeks to deal with what you did. Like you screwed up, own it. You got punished. Now move on and tell me you're never going to do it again. Don't ever do it again, and go win basketball games. Don't say here like, woe is me. Like, what did I do? And I let everybody down, whatever. Like, no, you don't have time to dwell on this, but also say, hey, like, yeah, I suspended you because you screwed up. That doesn't mean I hate you. That doesn't mean I don't want you part of this team. That doesn't mean I'm trying to run you off. Like, this is part of, growing up. Like you got to like, I'm trying to grow you as a man and telling you that, but and he's capable of that, and Woodson's good at that piece. But like, yeah, like he's got to do some things, and I think he kind of acknowledged it on Saturday. Like, I got to get these guys right. But part of it is having individual conversations with guys and saying like, yeah, you screwed up. That doesn't mean I hate you. That doesn't mean I don't want you part of this team. That doesn't mean I think you're a cancer. You're a college kid. You screwed up, and you need to be told that you screwed up. But that doesn't mean like, we got no place for you here. We need you, and we need all of you, and get your stuff right.
And we have to remember, Mike Woods is not accustomed to dealing with. Well, kind of he is, I guess, in the NBA. So young now, but it's a different deal.
You probably couldn't enforce these rules in the NBA. Like
you find them.
And it is different.
Fine, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. You just let them go, and if they come back, they're grown men.
They write a check, and it's no big deal.
Right, exactly. So I mean, it's a different. Like you can't tell guys they can't violate curfew or whatever. Like, come on. In the NBA, like, yeah, they're going to go out, but it's like, yeah, so, but these aren't grown men, and they don't even have the capacity for that, for one thing, to be able to do some of the crazy stuff like the guys would do. Like, they don't have the bodies for that. They don't have, they're not used to it, and it can go sideways on them faster. And frankly, they also don't have the margin for error. You throw away a game in Miami because you were being an idiot in the NBA, you got 80. These aren't games they can throw away.
And I don't think that the Northwestern loss, no matter what, will end up costing them the tournament. That loss itself is not going to cost them making a tournament. Now, the residual for what caused that and afterwards, I'm not saying that doesn't play a part.
It could go south on them. Yeah, I mean, it could end up being the decision that now. That being said, like if the other option is if you establish that there are no rules in your program, like it might, you might have made the tournament this year if you just let this ride. But if you create a culture where
you do like back when Kelvin Sampson was,
you want, then like you end up with a situation where guys are going out every time they go to Chicago, and every time they go to Minneapolis, and every time they go to Madison, and eventually you start losing games you're not supposed to lose.
And Rick Bozich had a piece last week, and he, appropriately pointed out, hey, Indiana did that once. They had a guy, his name was Kelvin Sampson. You remember what happened after that? And so if you don't have what is going on now, that's where you end up again.
Right. No, exactly. It can go sideways on you really fast. And I wasn't around for Sampson. There's a whole lot more, involved there in terms of, like it was always sort of said to me and explained to me that like Sampson went and purposely tried to get guys that were trouble and sort of work them through things. And it's hard to just decide you're going to, draw a flat line and say you can't do anything wrong. I mean, it was guys that, he was giving a second chance in a lot of cases. So there's now I'm not trying to overly defend him, but bottom line is like, that's a whole different set of factors. But bottom line, no, you don't want a lawless program. You don't want a ruleless program. And again, kids are going to push their limits with you, like because they're 20 and they want to see what they can get away with and what they can try and how much fun they can pack in to a couple of days. That's what you're constantly doing, is trying to see how you can do all the things at once. You feel like you're never going to be back there again, so you try to pack everything in, and you end up not valuing some things that you need to value. And so you need to be sort of reminded of that. Again, like they're no different than the rest of us, like we can't act holier than thou and act like we didn't
absolutely not.
in college, and we wouldn't have done stupid stuff if we were in a more regimented situation. A lot of us, we didn't have a coach telling us what we could and couldn't do. We didn't have to answer to anybody in the same way that these guys do. And if someone was checking curfew for us, even like states I came into the school newspaper with on Sunday morning. I mean, like, I was not 100% a lot of times when I got into work. And so, like I didn't have a coach telling me. It was, my peers or whatever, but we were all kind of in the same situation, working through all our same stupid stuff. So we can't act like we're better than them. But in the same way, like Woodson has to say, like you guys don't have the same margin for error that an average college kid does. Like if you screw up, you can lose a basketball game, and you need to know that. So it's different. But again, it makes like long term, it's the right investment. Like your long term, even if you screw it up now, even if you don't make the tournament, his long term prospects are better if he sends this message than if he doesn't.
Tomorrow night, Indiana welcomes in Wisconsin, one of the top teams in the Big Ten, a team that they had down 22 at halftime on the road. But obviously that was melted away. And now you would think Wisconsin's a better team than they were then. But they've been kind of up and down a little bit, coming off of a loss at home to Rutgers, obviously. I don't know if that puts them in a vulnerable position or it makes them more dangerous.
With Wisconsin, it could be either. I mean, I think it keeps them dangerous. Like when like a lot of the times when you think Wisconsin's down, that's when they show up and just skunk you. But there is some I think sketchy trends if you look back and they beat Michigan State in Breslin, and that was a big one. They lost handily to Rutgers. Like they had a tight one at home against Penn State. They got hammered at Illinois. They didn't dominate Minnesota at home. They only beat Nebraska by 8. It's not a knock your socks off. It is not a knock your socks off Wisconsin team. There have been tougher. There have been more talented. But Johnny Davis is as good of a player as they've had. I think we could say that pretty. I mean, like you've seen a lot of great Wisconsin players over time, and obviously they play this sort of grinded out style. So there's not always a whole lot of opportunity for guys to individually stand out. But Johnny Davis is the real thing. I think we can pretty say that. And when you've got a player like that, it makes up for a lot of ills. It makes up for a lot of shortcomings elsewhere. And that when that guy can drop 30 on a given night and change everything.
Justin, you have anything out pregame for the game that people need to see?
Yeah, I mean, Zach is going to be doing our what to watch for preview, and I think we'll be talking to a player today. I'm not sure who yet. It's mystery guest so far.
Was that on the podcast?
Player press conference, not podcast. I mean,
the Indiana.
Yes, for Indiana Zoom presser today. It's mystery player so far at 2:30. So looking forward to find out who that's going to be and insights we can bring to that. But,
can't wait.
Yeah, so then we'll all be Wisconsin Tuesday night and have an interesting one.
Make sure you give Dustin a follow and make sure you read everything he puts out at the Bloomington Herald. Dustin, I can't thank you enough, brother.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
Hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore's 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Start the new year out.
All right, guys, what are the odds Jim makes it back on time before the end of the commercial break? What's the over-under? The Good Morning America of IU basketball. He'll appreciate that. Ross says 0 chance that he makes it back before the end of the break. We will see. I'm not sure how far the TSA is from where he's at, but he made it seem like it was a bit far away. Pete also says 0 chance. Or will someone jack his laptop? Yeah, wouldn't that be something if somebody just hopped over and got on the stream with us? That would be that wouldn't be good, to say the least. Can Jim run like OJ in the airport? My goodness. It's got 1:20. Look at that. He made it back on time with 1:10 to spare. He can't hear me yet, though. He doesn't have his headset in.
God,
look at you. Did you make it back? Did you find your book?
No, somebody fucking took it. I actually just left it at the Starbucks. I remember I sat it in a basket.
Oh.
And I went back up there and it's fucking gone.
Look at this comment. Look at this. You'll appreciate this. Coil in the AM. Great show to start your day. It's the Good Morning America of IU basketball.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you. I'm mad right now because I lost my $30 book, but I was only a
Sorry
third of the
about
way.
that.
Oh, it's just
I know
ignorance.
it's not my fault, but
I always do stupid stuff. You can't set stuff down.
all right, here we go.
Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing
This will
market.
be a fairly
Reach
short
out to
segment.
Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. cheryl@indiehomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Monday. I hope you're doing well. Brought to you by our good friends from Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic, Dr. Steve Green, and of course Brian Evans. If you want to stop snoring, you have problems snoring, they can help you out. It's a small device, size of a tooth whitening tray. It's amazing. Give it a call, give it a try. You're going to be amazed. You throw up John, you have the email. I forget it offhand.
Give me 1 sec.
That's all right. I think it's auroraspecialtysleep.com, I believe. There's the number. 317-482-7900. Make sure you reach out to them. I don't remember the email, but I need to get that memorized. But that will certainly help you with your sleep issues. Hope everyone else is doing well. Aaron made us reaching out and saying hi. There was something I intended to talk about. Not Super Bowl related, over the weekend. Another big night for CJ Gunn. I think they had a big win, 18 points for him. You want to talk about a guy who has elevated his game. I look forward to talking to Jim Reamer about this. I don't want to not spend too much time on it now, but last year he was averaging about 10 points a game, and the IU coaches said, dude, you got to start scoring. You got to become more of a scorer. And talk about taking it to heart. I call him Mr. Fourth Quarter. I've seen him put up 18 in the fourth quarter. He's done that similar type of nights as well. that's the guys that are coming to Indiana. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Ja'Kai Newton. He was just named. What was that award? He just was named something top. Got top players. You got talent. They don't have that type of talent right now. That's something that fans just have to face, and it'll change. It's going to change. Some of it they do, but the mix is not. I don't think it's a great mixture for whatever reason, and it just takes time to work out. Hope everyone is having a great day. Throw up any questions that you like, and I wish I could remember what it was that I specifically wanted to talk about. Daggone it. But I forgot. So, oh well. Super Bowl, I was kind of torn, man. I grew up a Rams fan, but it's kind of hard to pull against the Bengals. So I was like, eh. And when it came down to what it came down to, with the Bengals having scored with that call that didn't get made, I didn't have a problem with how it ended. It was a good game. Went down in the last couple of minutes. So what are you going to complain about? Anything about the commercials pop out to anybody? Was there anything that was great? Commercial wise, like I said, I didn't pay attention to them. I couldn't hear them. John?
One of the first commercials that comes to my mind, and I don't know that it was a good commercial, but it was a very weird commercial. It was for Uber Eats, and all these people were eating like pet food out of their Uber Eats because apparently they were advertising that you could deliver your pet food to them now. But the humans were eating the pet food, and it was a mixture of hilarious and disgusting. But that's the one ad that really stands out to me, I think.
Well, and I'm kind of pissed off right now. I left when I stopped at Starbucks, and I left a book that I was reading and was looking so forward to getting much more through that on the flight. Left it in a basket at Starbucks and went back there, and it was gone. It's the Betrayal of Anne Frank. Great great book. But trust me, when I get off of here, I'm going to start walking around and I hope I see somebody reading that thing. I'm going to snatch it up out of their hands. So it's got me angry. They could have read it when I was done with it, but I wasn't done with it yet. Let's see what also went on over the weekend in India in sports that stood out. Anything? The Olympics. I swear this is the least watched Olympics of any kind of my lifetime for me personally. I have not sat down to watch it. It's been on in the background a little bit where I've been, but I have not sat down to watch any of it. It's just.
I think part of the issue with the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in particular right now, is the fact that you're literally just coming off of the Summer Olympics this past year, and you usually don't have that. Usually you have a 2-year window between Olympics, but because you had the summer one delayed from a couple of years ago, now you have them literally 6 months apart.
Now here's a comment that I'm not surprised to see. The older audience is not going to enjoy the halftime show, but you have to understand the halftime show is not built for. It's built for people from 18 to 55 probably. That's the age range. That's the marketing range, and if it's outside of that, who would care? No offense, but the group outside of that is very small, and the group on the inside of that, the other side that's kids. So that's
what artist would 60-plus-year-olds want to see do the Super Bowl halftime show?
Great question, Forrest. I'm gonna turn to you since you did not like that. Who would you like to see do a Super Bowl halftime show? Now, that is a great question. That is a great question. That's very
the OG
interesting.
Led Zeppelin. I don't even know how many of Led Zeppelin members are still alive.
That's a good question too, but I would have liked to have seen, but it's too late
says
now.
Bob Seger.
Man, that's going to be a really mellow kind of a.
Tebow says Sammy Hagar.
Well, Sammy Hagar would have to be.
Hagar, excuse me.
Sammy Hagar would have to be in a kind of an entourage like they did last night. I think that they could do that, but
Aerosmith would be fun.
Not by themselves again. I mean, I think like last night having a montage like that, yeah, that would be great. I'd like to see, especially, oh my God, Kenny Rogers. What do you want to be? All right, wow, you cannot be serious, Ryan. That's no way. Keep throwing those out there. I'd like to see that though. I would like to have seen AC/DC years, 5 years ago or something, but that deal is passed. They would have rocked the joint, but it's got to be up tempo, upbeat. So I was curious. Now, as we go further along, we're probably going to get further away from even people I like. But you got to remember, Green Day would be a good one. Yeah, Foo Fighters, boom. Green Day, Foo Fighters, and I would imagine, I can't imagine not seeing the Foo Fighters at some time soon.
I feel like they've gone away from the rock groups, and I know that's because it's not the day and age of the music we're in anymore, but you don't see much of that anymore.
They had, who was there last year?
The Weeknd. And that's not that's like an R&B artist.
Yeah, what's the year before that? You have the list.
The last rock band I remember being there was the Chili Peppers, and that was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, see, that was good.
But it was a weird combination. It was the Chili Peppers and Bruno Mars.
Yeah, see, that's not good. I don't like that mix. I like a montage, but it's got to be one of similarities. I mean,
Chris says Nickelback for me and his wife.
Oh wow! I don't know why
that happened.
I don't know why. Why do people not like them?
I think
so much.
And I mentioned this before. I think the AC/DC crowd doesn't like them because they kind of stole their thing.
No one likes them. What are you talking about? I've never heard anyone but just.
No, there's Nickelback fans out there, but they're closet Nickelback fans. That's the thing.
I've never heard so many people complain about a group.
And it makes no sense. There's almost no reason to hate them, in my opinion.
I don't get it.
We got Jim Reamer, though, if we want to take a break.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got some high school basketball to get caught up on and the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our friends from Aurora Specialist Sleep Clinic. Reach out to them in Indianapolis. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
Here's a good point, too.
Howdy.
We don't ever see country artists do the halftime show.
Because it's too damn boring.
No, they could put Chesney could put on a good show. I think he could.
Not for that crowd that's paying $3,000 a ticket to attend that Super Bowl. No, he couldn't.
I got people still saying that my thing about Nickelback sounding like AC/DC is not relevant. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think
they're relevant, but they're not.
It's not that they're the same. It's the fact that all of their songs sound the same. And I'm not saying Nickelback sounds like AC/DC. I'm saying a lot of Nickelback songs sound the same, and a lot of AC/DC songs sound the same. That's what I'm getting at when I say that.
Well, a lot of metal groups have the same sound.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot more experimentation nowadays too.
I mean, Nickelback's like Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi probably fits the same mold with that too. Yeah. Look at the cat in the background. What's the cat's name?
That one's Hunter. They've migrated to Carmel, so they're now Carmel residents versus Greenfield residents.
Man, I can't wait to walk this. Next break, I'm going to do it. Damn it, I should have did it now. Someone took my book, Jim.
What book?
The Betrayal of Anne Frank.
The Betrayal of Anne Frank. A little light reading before the podcast.
No, I've been reading it all weekend. It was a great book, and I'm halfway through it, and I was going through the line at Starbucks, and I sat it down in one of their baskets to do something, and Well,
go do it. I can talk about CJ Gunn for.
I've already walk back there. There's someone already took it.
Ouch.
Fucker. Well, I'm going to walk around every next break. I'm walking around real quick right here because they probably
they have video.
Well, they've got to be in this section because the Starbucks is on this end of the terminal. So I'm going to run up and down every row.
Oh, where are you? I just didn't catch where you are.
I'm at the Tampa airport.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go.
Year. Well, nothing says I love you like the little green box from Brinker's Jewelers. Hi, I'm Kyle Brinker from Brinker's Jewelers. This Valentine's Day, tell the one you love how much they mean to you with one of our hand-selected, unique, beautiful, and high-quality jewelry items that are ready to be put in that little green box from Brinker's Jewelers. Valentine's Day will be here before you know it, so don't wait until the last minute. Come into Brinker's Jewelers.
I just found it.
It's best jewelry store 9 years in a row.
You're good. I got you.
At the corner of Greenfield Road and the Lloyd Expressway.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Jim Reamer joining us, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg, Indiana. If you're down there, make sure you stop in and see Dr. J. You need that championship smile. Thought I found my book, guys, but it was not it. Very similar looking cover, and as soon as I got over there, I was about to snatch that thing up, and I saw that wasn't it. I just kept on walking.
I was halfway expecting all of a sudden to see a scuffle break out in the background.
Oh, I was just going to.
So this has been like a multi-segment thing. This isn't just something that just happened during the break.
I realized about 2 segments in that I had left it when I came down here, and I'm like, at first I thought I'd left it at TSA. Then I realized, wait a minute, I left it right there at Starbucks, which is not that far away. But it's gone. But
hardback, paperback,
hardback, man, $32.
How much?
$32.
Oh, 32. I think you said 102. It's like, whoa,
$32. And Jim's upset. Little Costanza, he's upset. Looking forward to reading that. It's very interesting. It's a very compelling book. I'm not a big time book reader. Don't have a lot of time to do that, but man, I've enjoyed when I get onto a good one. This weekend was fun, Jim. It looked like a lot of great games going on, a lot of big time play. CJ Gunn, another good weekend for him. What did he end up with? 18 points in those Saturday games?
I saw him Monday. Their rescheduled game from Snowmageddon was last Monday versus Carmel.
Oh, so yeah. That was a hell of a game, wasn't it?
I mean, sure, for Carmel fans. It's a great game. Carmel controlled most of the game, led by as many as, I want to say 18.
Oh, did he get that bad?
And then LA kind of chipped away, and it was sort of 12, I think, heading into the fourth quarter, and then they kind of hovered around 7-9. But Gunn went shotless in the first quarter. And then, there's a switch that he flipped that honestly I think he needs to just not ever turn off. I mean, he was so impressive in the second half and scoring in ways that translate. I mean, there's some times where he's had to get 2 or 3 extra dribbles to get into a shot that won't translate. But the elevation that he gets on his jump shot is at a high level. I mean, he gets a rhythm catch, or he can come off and get any type of rhythm. I consider rhythm catch anything either off the pass or off the dribble. He gets in rhythm, and he gets a chance to elevate into a jump shot. I mean, that's 6'5", getting about, I don't know, looked like pretty high up in the air. He's able to get separation vertically and shoot over defenders, and Carmel's a very good defensive team and didn't have a lot of answers for him in the second half, but unfortunately, they had dug too deep of a hole, and they didn't have any answers for Pete Suter. So,
have you have you seen anyone in the Indy area that has improved offensively more than CJ? I mean, he went from averaging probably 10 points a game last year, and over the summer, the IU staff says you need to become more of a scorer. And man, has he? Well, I saw him. He scored 18 in the fourth quarter. I know in other games you just mentioned he's impressive in the second half, but he seems to always be impressive in the second half, which is great. But like you said, 4 quarters is always better. But he has really, really upped his game.
Well, the key there was last year, especially he played with 2 other Division I players, and if you count McCauley, who's a Division I athlete, now a quarterback at Indiana, they had guys, they had dudes, and before that, the year before, they had Tony Perkins, who's now at Iowa. So there's never been an opportunity for him to be the sole or even primary focus of an offense, and right now he is outside of maybe some diversionary stuff they do for a couple of other shooters they have. He is their only offense right now. He does. There is a level in him, like I said, like I started off. There is when he gets going, he's got a lot of dog in him, and I mean that obviously the DAWG way. There's a lot of dog in him, man, where he can just take the game by the horns and go. But the rest of their group's pretty young, so they're going to have some. They still have some growing pains that they're going to have to figure out in March. But I don't know that it's so much that he's improved. It's just that he's needed to do more and has. And when you consider how successful Lawrence North has been the last 2 years, they got to the state finals last year. The year before, they were probably even a touch better with Perkins when COVID wiped the state tournament out. That's 2 teams in a row that were state championship caliber teams. And, they weren't doing things specifically for him. Even though he was the guy last year that was coming off a lot of off-ball action, a lot of off-ball screens, while Shamar Avance and DJ Hughes were doing their ball screen action. So, it's good watching him move without the basketball. It's a skill that he has. It's an understanding that he has. And it was great watching him from an IU perspective, watching him attack and find different ways to score. It was nerve-wracking from a Carmel perspective, but he carried. He almost put Lawrence North on his back the entire second half.
Yeah, and we've seen him do that a lot, and that they're a very athletic team, but I don't know, they're not as basketball deep as
they're quick.
team.
They're just not very big. He's their biggest player, and that's Lawrence North has had their fair share of bigs over the years. And not all of them have been high major bigs, but they've had their fair share of length. And of course, last year they had Hughes, and then again I said that they had McCauley, who's 6'4", 6'5", and just a wonderful athlete. And then they had Gunn. Right now, Gunn is it. I mean, they do have another. I mean, obviously they have Omar Cooper, who is fabulously athletic, but the last 3 years he hasn't put a lot of time in skill development in his basketball, understandably. I mean, he's obviously a high major football player, but he's able to make plays. But most of his action is right around the paint, off the dribble. It's not like he's posting up, but most of his action is around the paint, either in the half court, being able to back cut people, or in transition, being able to catch and finish.
And I know that he may not be ready physically and all of that now, but man, Indiana could sure use a guy like him on their team, someone that they can look to score. Because they don't have that right now, and that is one of the things that Indiana team is definitely missing. They don't have the guy to turn to that you can count on to knock down buckets, period, much less in critical times.
Yeah, not in the perimeter, certainly. They don't have that get a bucket guy. Like it's kind of like I kind of bring some things back to every now and then, especially with the podcast that I do. We oftentimes things steer back to Carmel, but Pete Suter, he's been a guy that's had to step up offensively this year for Carmel and be that guy to go get a bucket, because Brian Waddell did it the year before. Brian's now a medical redshirt at Purdue, or will be a medical redshirt at Purdue. And Gunn, that was the one thing he had to prove he could do this year at Lawrence North. So when you talk about stepping up his game, I think he's always had it in him. The question was did they need him to do it? This year they do, and I believe he's done it. So they had some growing pains in the beginning, because obviously he missed the first few games. They were 5-1 without him, and then he came back and into a pretty tough schedule. I mean, they don't have an easy schedule to begin with, but now they're like all teams, they're getting ready to gear up for March. So he's been really good the 3 times I've seen him this year.
And we look at what Indiana will have coming in. Guys like C.J. Gunn, Ja'Kai Newton, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Those are all the type of players they haven't really been getting. And to get a trio of them is going to be a big help for this team. Guard, because the guard play, let's be honest, is inconsistent. You lose Rob Finney, who's a great off the bench, but you just haven't had any consistency at that position this year whatsoever, and it's killing them.
Well, and he's you look at guys. What's been going on lately with like Cooper Kopp's or Miller Kopp's inability to hit shots right now has been perplexing, and of course Parker Stewart couldn't buy a basket the other day against Michigan State, and Finney was never outside shooting was never his best asset at McCutcheon. He was always he was always a guy that could get to the rim and always a guy that would find people. And the second part of that he's never wavered from that. He's always been able to find people, but I don't know. It's perplexing how Indiana can't get guys who can hit shots, and definitely can't get guys who can hit shots. Who can hit shots in key moments. Not that any moment's more important than the others, but it seems like whenever they need a big basket or something to change the momentum of a game or even put a game away, maybe make it one possession tougher for their opponent. They don't have, like you said, they don't have that guy that can go out there and you can just count on consistently to get a good shot and to hit that shot.
Yep, absolutely, and that will change next year, obviously.
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully. Then you've got to look at the fact that they're going to have to probably have a big man. I really don't see Trace Jackson Davis leaving, but that who knows? That's really up in the air. I don't think he has a place to go, but we'll see about that and how that turns out. And if they don't, then he'll be the guy. But if they do, they're just going to have to simply hit the portal.
Yeah, they will. I mean, I've been disappointed in how much Michael Durr has been provided or produced for Indiana. I don't know if it's injury, if it's familiarity with what they're doing, and he's having a hard time, making plays, or it's just that they don't believe he can play at the same time as Trace. So therefore, the only minutes he's getting is backing up Trace. I don't know. Not ever being at practice, certainly not being there every day, it's hard to make that assessment other than the fact that he's just not playing and providing the kind of lineup flexibility I thought they would have coming into this year.
I don't disagree. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to leave the rest to you and John so I can catch my plane.
Nice.
You and thank everybody else, as always. Well, no reason for us to be here without you. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. And thanks, John. And until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will personally see you on the radio. Indiana Sports Beat will be back with more, brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry. Go to see Dr. J for that championship smile. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
Oh, there he goes. There you go. Bye, Jim. So I kind of want to continue this conversation that we were having before you came on.
Okay.
About the Super Bowl halftime show. Not necessarily the one that happened. It can be about that, but it can also just be about halftime Super Bowls in general. Who you'd like to see, what you like or dislike about what they do with those things. And
we can. I'm not a huge music guy, but we can. I mean, I can.
Oh man.
Well, I can't break it down. Like I don't do.
Well,
I've never
break it down, but just like
I've never been to a big venue concert.
Really?
So to talk, yeah, I've never been. It's just never been of interest. I mean, most of them take place when I'm coaching. So,
okay.
Or in the winter, I'm at basketball games. I'm not giving up games to do that. So
that's true.
There have been a couple of exceptions.
You should go to a summer rock festival.
Well, what was sad was we were supposed to go to Atlanta. I don't know what it was, 3-4 years ago. And we ended up not going. and it had to do with Nike thing, and we didn't qualify to get down there or something like that, and so I had a weekend free, and I tried to get tickets to Tom Petty, and I'm like, well, you know what? Next year I'm going to make a point to go, and then he passed away. So, hopefully I didn't jinx him, but at the same time, that was my one. Him or Mellencamp would be the ones. Would be the ones that I would, well, not Petty anymore, but Mellencamp would be one I would enjoy going to.
And in the comments too, feel free to continue to share who you like to see in Super Bowl halftime shows, that kind of thing, and we'll put those up on the screen. I know some of you all did that earlier, but
I enjoyed the halftime show last night, though. So I mean, I'm not one of those guys that my music interests have grown as music has changed.
Yeah,
I'm not one of those guys that stood in the past. And I think most of that's because I coach basketball and I hang out with kids that do nothing but listen to hip hop and rap, and I like a lot of it. So
I'm gonna try to save my thoughts. I have a thought. I don't know if I'm gonna share it, but I think it'd be funny to share it.
That's fine. Go for it.
I could preview it just by saying Woodstock 99.
Oh God.
I don't think it would be a popular halftime show at this point, though. The artist I'm thinking of.
Wasn't that a debacle? Wasn't that like
at Woodstock?
A low key fire.
Yeah, it was because of the artist.
Fire without the straining
because of the artist that I'm thinking of. And if you know who I'm talking about, go ahead and put it in the comments. And I'll just say
me or
they
just
knew it. The other people, the listeners.
The people that are listening on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
We should be forgetting. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. John and Jim Reamer here taking over the last segment as Jim Coyle heads to his flight back home to Bloomington, Indiana, I should say. We were talking about earlier in the show and then in the break just now, Super Bowl halftime shows, who we'd like to see, what we enjoyed about yesterday's halftime show, acts we've liked in the past. And Jim was telling me that he's actually never been to a big name.
You're outing me. You're outing me.
I have to, though.
Man. I've never been to a big venue concert. I do a lot of local bands. I like getting to places like Rathskeller on Mass Ave in Indianapolis to watch local bands or cover bands. But most of that's just for the scene. I don't know. I grew up not being a huge music guy. So, and most of the big venue concerts come around when I'm coaching. So
I've got to ask you,
when
one
I'm in the thick of it.
from Indiana, it's interesting you like local groups. The Y Store. Do you like the Y Store? Do you know who that is?
Not specifically. It wasn't anything that key. But look, they good. That's a good local band. It was Henry Lee Summer was one that I caught right before he took off. I caught it a little at a festival. I think it was White River. I can't remember where that was. That was such a long time ago. But never been to like Deer Creek for a concert. Never been to Conseco. Definitely never been to in any of either football state. They used to do some stuff. They did one at RCA Dome. I could never figure out why that would even be appealing.
Yeah, Jim went to Guns N' Roses. Jim Coyle went to Guns N' Roses a few months back at Lucas Oil Stadium, and he said it's just an odd. He says you think it would be a good place for a concert, but it really isn't.
No, acoustically, I don't see how it works, but I think most of it is just music for me is something that I do in my car.
Yeah,
it's not something I listen. It's not something and even now I'm almost 75% podcast. So
yeah,
music for me is almost now a warm day with sunroof open, windows cracked a little bit, rolling down and just passing time in between podcasts. But so
I mentioned earlier in the break too, I was going to mention an artist that I think would be fun to see, not necessarily because of the product, their music isn't fantastic, but they're just a fun act, and that they were infamous for something that went down in Woodstock 99. Ross, you're incorrect. You said Kid Rock. I do believe they were at Woodstock 99, but I was referring to the infamous Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst. I think. I don't know if you remember seeing in the news last year at Lollapalooza in Chicago, Fred Durst came out as if he was dressed like he was an old man. I wish I had a photo of it, but I don't know if it was like his return to performing live. And so he was kind of just making a joke out of the fact that he's an old act, even though he's not really as old as he made himself look. But I just thought that Limp Bizkit would be interesting. Fred Durst is such a character. Like I said earlier, his music obviously isn't top quality amazing. It's just a fun act that I think would be interesting to see at a Super Bowl halftime show.
I think in 15 years, you probably could put the Killers on at halftime, right?
Yeah.
And the entire crowd would just start screaming Mr. Brightside, right? I mean, how old are you, John?
Yeah. I'm 24.
Okay, so that's right. You're kind of at the tail end of that, aren't you? How has that become the anthem of 20 and 30 somethings?
I don't understand. So when I was in college, wasn't long ago. There was a lot of people that knew Mr. Brightside, knew the Killers.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's one of those.
They scream it.
It's kind of
a good song
me as well.
It just tells me you guys all had a lot of crappy roommates. And you identify with that song. You listen to that song. That's what it's about, right? Guy sees a girl, kisses her, and all of a sudden his roommate's stealing her.
Yeah.
And all these 20 and 30 somethings, whether I'm at a bar, whether I'm at anywhere, it comes on Touch Tunes or somebody karaoke's it, and it's just the place goes crazy. And I do like the song, but it's a catchy tune, but I never envisioned how it could just all of a sudden like just bring people to almost damn rapture as they sing this song out. So,
well, a lot of people, and I'm going to bring it back to the Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eminem that we had last night. Prior to the Super Bowl, I'd seen a tweet of somebody on Twitter. They were describing a scene of them at the gym, and they overheard somebody talking about what this year's Super Bowl halftime show was, and they described it as oldies. And they said that was the moment that they realized that, wow, the new generation is really finally taking over, I guess, the what is cool nowadays.
Well, I have become addicted to TikTok. So
that is the one thing. I'm 24 years old, Mr. Reamer.
Yeah,
2021. That's when I realized I jumped off the pop culture highway, was when I refused to get a TikTok.
2021 was the year of TikTok, the year of online gambling. And luckily I'm doing well in the online gambling avenue, but the TikTok stuff, it's interesting. My feed's mostly, as you can, we joke about in the past and even a little bit earlier today, my feed's mostly cat videos, DIY projects, cooking, comedian lip syncs, and then some of the dance stuff that I think is fun to watch. But the I forget where I was going with that. Oh my God, forget where I was going with that. There was a TikTok that's come across the last 2 or 3 days. It's usually somebody that's probably in their 40s or maybe even my age at 52, where they're saying at halftime of the Super Bowl, our kids are going to find out what freaks we were 20 years ago. So, and they're showing them dancing.
Well, I don't know if you heard Jim earlier, but he made a comment saying that the people who are excited, I can't remember what it said. If the people who were screaming about the people who was at the halftime show, those are the ones who need a colonoscopy or something like that. I think I'm butchering the way that it was phrased, but something along those lines.
It was good. Look, Snoop was good, Dre was good, and Eminem was good.
I really see. Obviously, I like Eminem. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you could tell 50 hadn't done much in music lately.
Yeah,
it seems like not even just as a normal, like he just sounded out of his depth there a little bit. Mary J. Blige, she's certainly talented. I didn't know what the second song she sang was.
I think it was called No Drama. I think I saw someone say it was called No Drama.
I mean, the first one
I'm not mistaken.
But then the Kendrick Lamar stuff, I guess I never got into him. So
Kendrick Lamar. he was the way to
Short
bring younger millennials and Gen Z. He's the younger guy. He wasn't a part of the whole 90s thing they were going for with this.
All right, well, that makes me feel a little better. I mean, I'd heard of him. I mean, I knew who he was, and and I see my players on Twitter over the over the years talk about their arguments over who has the better album, who has the better diss track, whatever it is. But yeah, I had no clue who it was, and I didn't know what song he sang. So, but yeah, I thought the other groups, look, Snoop Dogg's just talented, Dre's just talented. I mean, those two guys, and Eminem's just talented. I think
one thing I was upset with about Eminem is that. So I don't know if you know this, maybe you do, but they pre-record the halftime show. Like the performance itself is live, but the audio track is pre-recorded.
Right.
I think the only artist that you could really tell
was him.
That was lip syncing was Eminem because he kept
lowered
pulling
his
microphone away from his mouth.
Right. Well, there's parts of his act where he does that.
Okay.
When I've seen shows, on different channels, obviously I've never been to one, but when I've seen shows on different channels, I mean, a lot of these guys do the same thing. They take the microphone away and they let the crowd sing, and even if it's all too briefly. So I think sometimes too they need a break, but still, still heavy lifting up there to do all that singing and dancing and moving around and all that stuff. But he was good. But the funny thing was, he looked like Justin Timberlake with the hoodie and the hat, and obviously he's gone away from the bleach, no more bleach, and he had the goatee. He looked like JT underneath his apparel last night.
Yeah, he's definitely gone for a more older, mature look. Because I remember seeing this during the game too. The last time publicly Eminem was at a football game, they had him in the University of Michigan press box with the bleach blonde hair still, and he was sitting there, and he looked like he was still stoned. He looked like he was halfway paying attention. And it was just, it was odd to say the least.
Another Saturday afternoon.
Another Saturday afternoon for Marshall Mathers. Yeah. All right, we got about 10 minutes here still. I know people still want us to talk a little bit about basketball. And I know Jim earlier covered CJ Gunn. But I don't know if he really got your takes on where Indiana is at right now, Indiana University. What are your thoughts on where Indiana stands right now as we get closer to the tournament? Can they make it, or what do you think needs to happen for them to really improve their chances?
Well, they need to not do what they did last year, which was lose their last 6 games. I mean, there's some pessimism abound. I don't share it, but there's some pessimism abound that they could actually lose out the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And it would be a way for them to show their toughness to continue to win at home and try to split, try to peck away games on the road. I think the troubling thing for them is what I said earlier about the shooting. Isn't just the actual shooting, it's the shot creation, the ability for them to get shots the right people at the right time, and that includes continuing to push Miller Kopp into the fray. Make sure, because I think he's a guy that once he gets going can be a guy that can come in and get you 2 or 3 threes in a game. And him and Parker Stewart. I wish they would. I know they both didn't start yesterday, right? They both. Galloway started yet.
Yeah, Galloway started over Parker Stewart. Miller Kopp started, but Galloway was over Parker.
And I realize that could be just because of the disciplinary issues, but I would like to see fewer minutes of Kopp and Stewart on the floor at the same time, because I think defensively, neither one of them do much off the dribble. Which I think that hurts Indiana's offense, because at that point they're not playing a secondary playmaker. Mm-hmm. And I'd also think defensively that's probably one of their worst rotations. So those two things suffer a great deal. You put a lot of responsibility on Xavier Johnson, and you put a lot of responsibility on even as much space as they can create with their ability to shoot. Because I doubt very much that people are still going to be all that excited about leaving Miller Kopp wide open. But as much as space as they can create, they don't ever they're not ever a threat to drive and make a play or drive into a shot, because that's not what they do. So it really helps defenses out when they play both of them together a lot. Now, if they go small, maybe with Geronimo now, and I don't know how much playmaking he does, but at least he's a guy who can attack and find the next play or even finish the one he's on. But even when they go small, maybe they can play those two guys together. But I just wouldn't do it on the regular because I just think they lack in those two areas.
You got a couple comments. Indy Nations agrees with you exactly. Kenneth agrees with about the no one able to drive. You got a question from Ross. He says, how do you feel about Orm progressing? Saw Saturday's game and he was impressive all around, but he's only seen 3 games.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, to me, he's definitely a mid-major. I think he's got some Missouri Valley offers. I think and that's ultimately where I think he'll end up. I don't know yet what I think about him from a high major perspective. It becomes a different conversation. And sometimes when you don't think a guy or a kid can play at a certain level, it comes off as negative. And the reality is, if you're good enough to play in the Missouri Valley, you're a hell of a basketball player. So, you look at what Pete Suter does for Carmel. He's going to Bellarmine. That's probably going to play their way into mid-major status here in a few years. We'll see how well they completely transition to the D1 level. They're a Division II team that's been very successful that is transitioning to Division I. And Pete obviously has been able to win a ton of games being a low D1 player, being a low D1 prospect, or maybe even a low D1 commit, and a mid-major prospect. So Orm he'll probably have to show more athleticism. He'll probably have to be able to show a little bit more defensively. I think right now he gets by defensively. He primarily plays he does play a lot of 3, but there's also a lot of lineups where he's a 4-man basically, and he's got to be able to show that he can guard quicker and athletic 3s. But he's got a lot of length, so that doesn't hurt, and his jump shot's pretty good, but it is pretty much a set shot. He doesn't get a whole lot of air into it, and he doesn't really do a whole lot of it off the dribble from the 3. He does get mid-range, and he's got a decent mid-range jump shot, and he can finish around the basket. But I think ultimately it's the springiness that he has to improve, and also the lateral quickness, and that's something that Waddell did improve upon going from his junior to his senior year. So Sam will have to make those improvements if we're talking about an IU context or even a Big Ten context.
You mentioned Bellarmine making their transition to Division I still, and that reminds me, University of Southern Indiana applied for Division I status a week or so ago. What's your opinion on that, or your thoughts?
I like it. We've known about that for a little bit. That's a big part why Stan Gerard left University of Indianapolis to go down there. They've put a lot of money in their facilities to be in that position, and look, I don't know. I don't know how Evansville being in the same area will impact either one of them. If that will change things in terms of the recruiting landscape. But I know that's been something that they've planned for quite some time. It's transitioning to that level, especially, is not something you just do. It's something that you have to amp up for. You have to get the facilities first, then you have to commit to the budget. You have to figure out maybe what conference you might try to be in. And then are you going to be willing to match? You want to be in the middle of the pack budget wise in their conference, or higher, middle of the pack or higher in any given conference, or else you're just like what Butler is going through with the Big East. Is sometimes they struggle with resources, not because they don't have enough, but others are just able to do more. And sometimes it's as simple as, private jets. Sometimes it's as simple as, recruiting, being able to retain coaches, being able to retain assistant coaches. I remember one time, who was it that took, had a chance to take the Ball State job, and I think it was Miami. That may not be right. There was somebody turned down Ball State, not because they got the higher salary, but because their coaching staff got the higher salaries. So, and the recruiting budget was bigger. They actually took less money. It was Ball State. It's been a while though, so I just can't pinpoint who I think the coach was. But yeah, they turned down a better paying Ball State job because the other school was willing to pay their assistants more, and they had a bigger recruiting budget. So those types of things are going to be questions they're going to have to answer. And it's the same thing that Butler had to decide as they were moving up from the Horizon League, their 1 year in the Atlantic 10, eventually into the Big East.
Yeah, I definitely think you could see, especially when you see the fallout of the Ohio Valley Conference, a lot of those teams heading into the Missouri Valley, that could be something that that the conference will open. How do I say this? They'll welcome Southern Indiana in with open arms. That's how I'm trying to phrase this.
I would think so. And that's geographically, it makes a lot of sense. I think that even from the Ohio Valley perspective, I mean, Evansville still ends up being one of their bigger cities. You know, they still end up being one of their bigger markets compared to the other places.
Third largest city in Indiana, or second largest, correct?
It is the third largest, behind Fort Wayne, and somehow now Carmel's fourth. I'm not sure how that happened, but and then Fisher's is fifth. So, we could do a whole podcast on the migration of power and talent in high school basketball based on economic factors, but population migration would be one of those factors too. But yeah, I mean, I would look forward to Southern Indiana, what they're going to be able to do, and happy for Stan, because look, you most of those guys want to eventually be Division I coaches. Not all of them, but most of them do, and I think that was his goal. And I think that may be why too he wasn't really super aggressive after the IUPUI jobs the last couple times it's been open, is I think he's kind of known what his path would be and how he would get there.
All right, well, we're going to wrap things up here. Thanks, Jim Reamer, for sticking around with us for this last segment, talking a little Super Bowl halftime stuff and obviously some Indiana basketball, high school and college. We'll see you next week. Also, thanks to Dustin Dopier, Don Fischer, Charlie Miller, and then obviously Jim Coyle taking care of this for us every single day. We'll be back tomorrow with Kevin Brockway, Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier, and you never know what else we're going to get taken care of for you. But until then, we will see you next time, and we will see you on the radio.